We are a little over a week into the start of the season, and it is never too early for a trade targets video. I honestly think that early in the season sometimes is the best opportunity to acquire a player that you may not have drafted that still doesn't have big name value or big value to start the season that can ultimately help you win your leagues. So in this video, I'm going to give you 7 players I think you should be trading for in the early parts of the season to set you up for long-term success in your fantasy leagues. My name is Mike, and let's jump into the video. Jake Sanderson has looked great to start the season. One of my favorite defensemen going into the year. His value is rising considerably over the last little bit, especially with recent notice that he is now the quarterback on the Ottawa Senators' top power play unit a lot earlier than I thought, especially with Chikrin and Shabbat there. I thought that Sanderson would take over around December, but 4 games into the season, and DJ Smith has noted that Jake Sanderson is in fact the quarterback on the top power play unit. And just last game, we saw a power play point, and that is added to 5 points in his first 4 games this season, with 2 on the power play. Another big point here with Sanderson is that Jake Norris is now back in the lineup. He was in my video yesterday. That adds a 16 power play goal scorer onto that top power play unit that Jake Sanderson is going to be quarterbacking, which makes them that much better. His name, to me, I still don't think is big enough. I mean, that's justified by his 56% roster percentage, which I assume will be going up over the next little bit. But at 56% roster, you can definitely still buy low on a guy that has massive upside and league-winning upside for the rest of the season. I'm trying to trade for him in all of my leagues right now. In 10-team leagues, he should definitely be rostered, but in those 12-plus team leagues, he has massive long-term value. He's actually one of the better defensive-style defensemen as well. He added over 140 blocks last season. There's really no reason why we shouldn't see that again, but now added power play points and massive point upside. Sanderson's in line for a 60-plus point season with over 150 shots and over 100-plus blocks while playing over 20 minutes per night. There's just a lot to like from Sanderson here. There's a lot to like from the Senators offense that now has their number 2 center, a former 35 goal scorer, back in the lineup and looking good with 2 goals last night. Some players that I would look to trade for Sanderson, it's kind of hard to judge his value. It really depends on if people know his name or not. But Tyler Bertuzzi, I mean, if you're in a league with Leafs fans, you could definitely try to move Bertuzzi for Sanderson. Brock Nelson, who had a good season last year, but still just, you know, you can get that same value from other players. And Matty Beniers, another high name player that you can offload one of your forwards for a stud defenseman. You could really never go wrong doing that. Vince Dunn is still another not household name like Sanderson that just doesn't really go on anyone's fantasy radar that has huge value for the season. Seattle is off to a rough start this season, 0-4, but they've had some really tough matchups. They started the season on a road trip against Nashville, Vegas, and St. Louis, and then had their home opener. You thought it would be a good night, but no, it was against the Colorado Avalanche, and they just didn't look good. But Vince Dunn here, he's still playing big minutes, over 23 minutes per night like we saw last season, which ultimately led to his breakout on a Seattle team that, as a whole, played way above their expectations. 81 games played, 64 points, 15 points on the power play, 150 shots and 114 hits in 2022. He was a top 10 to 12 defenseman. It really depended on your league. And this year, the outlook is pretty much the exact same. I think right now is the low or the small window to buy low on Vince Dunn, and you have to take advantage of it. I was able to trade for him in one of my leagues. I know everybody has very full rosters of forwards, and there's not many opportunity to trade and acquire a number 1 defenseman on a solid team, and that's what you're going to get out of Vince Dunn. In the first 4 games this season, in these really tough matchups, he has been firing the puck with 23 shot attempts in his first 4 games. Very small sample, but hopefully that's a sample we can see continue from Dunn as he's getting good offensive looks, again, on a solid Seattle Kraken team. Now, some players to offer for Vince Dunn: Andrei Kuzmenko, Thomas Chabot, and Toivo Teravainen. It's really hard to judge the value of some of these players in the early going, so I'm just trying to spitball some names that I think have name value and that are maybe overperforming in the early going. Nazem Kadri is just not off to a good start at all, but a guy that I actually really liked a lot going into this season because his underlying numbers last year with Calgary was extremely good and honestly not really talked about as much as it should be. He's just 64% rostered. The name value's there because he's a former Toronto Maple Leaf, but still, he's just not as good as we thought he was going to be to start the season, which gives you a perfect time to buy low on him and buy low in the entire Calgary Flames roster. Last season, Kadri, 11.35 shots per 60, which ranked him 17th amongst all skaters, and 20.83 shot attempts per 60, which ranked him 15th amongst all skaters. He was firing the puck more than we've ever seen in his career, and in 82 games played last season, he had 54 points, 19 power play points, 267 shots, and he was just one hit away from the elusive 200 plus shot and 100 plus hit club. He's playing line 2, he's playing power play 1. His minutes are slightly up this season. We know Sutter's not there anymore, so hopefully this helps the offense in Calgary. Last year they had guys like Trevor Lewis on the second line and Brett Ritchie playing top line, but hopefully they start to stack this top 6 and Nazem Kadri gets better line mates and just better offensive opportunities. Some players I'd look to offer for Nazem Kadri, some low volume centers like Matt Barzal and Chandler Stevenson. They put up points, but they don't really shoot the puck very much. And someone that started off hot like David Perron. Dylan Cozens was one of the biggest sleepers going into this season. A lot of people were on him, and I'm actually really surprised to see his roster percentage at just 67%. And this may be a case of there's just too many centers going on right now, and that just devalues a lot of these big sleepers. But Cozens last year, similar to what we're seeing this year, had a slow start, just 6 points in his first 9 games, and then went on to be an absolute stud for the whole entire second half of the season. Right now, the Sabres, they're in a little bit of a slump, just 2 goals per game within their first 3 games of the season, where last year they ranked 3rd in the NHL with goals for at 3.6 goals for per game. Very, very elite numbers from this Buffalo Sabres team, and their outlook should be much better. They're a very young team last year and they're getting older. They have more chemistry as a core group. It's just a matter of time before this team starts to blow up and start to score a lot of goals. And you want to be buying into Dylan Cozens before this happens. Last year, 31 goals, 68 points, 211 shots, while playing under 17 minutes per night. He was given the power play 1 opportunity in the second half of the season, where his minutes went up a bunch. He was playing around 17 to 19 per night. It really depended on the special teams. But this year, same opportunity, line 2, power play 1. Hopefully, Jack Quinn recovers quick from injury and will slot in on that second line with Dylan Cozens adding a high volume goal scorer. Some players to offer for Dylan Cozens: Matty Beniers, Nick Suzuki, and Trevor Zegras. Those are just centers on not very good teams other than Beniers that just don't really give you enough value to justify rostering them right now. And I think Dylan Cozens' upside surpasses all of these players, especially Zegras, who always has super high name value. Arguably, other than Svechnikov, my favorite player going into this season, Filip Forsberg. I've drafted him in almost every single league I'm in, and I was absolutely shocked to see 72% rostered, especially with the winger depth being super shallow this season. Forsberg's a guy that has huge upside. So far this season, there has been very, very good things and very positive factors for Forsberg. If you've watched any of the Nashville Predators games, Forsberg looks phenomenal right now. He is buzzing around the ice. He's taking shots from everywhere, and that's what we're seeing in his underlying stats, playing 20 plus minutes per night, a career high for him so far, and he has 40 shot attempts in his first 4 games, 10 shot attempts per game, which I don't think is sustainable, but it's a very positive factor that we're seeing in the early going. So far this season, 15th best shot per 60 rate and 4th best shot attempt per 60 rate. That's just a little bit inflated because of his minutes. He usually plays around 17 to 18 per night, but that's completely fine with me if he's playing 20 plus per night because he is the focal point of this team's offense. He's 2 years removed from a 42 goal season where he also added 226 shots and 112 hits, an extremely high floor, and that was really the reason why we liked him so much. He has 30 goal, 250 shot and 120 hit upside this season. And some players to offer for him are Patrick Laine, who also always has a big name, Brock Besser, who has had a hot start, but I really think he's a massive sell high right now, and Brock Nelson, a very similar player to Forsberg, just lacking some of the hits numbers that Forsberg brings to the roster. You may be surprised to see Devon Levi here, but as I was analyzing this Buffalo Sabres team, it made more sense to why I think Devon Levi becomes a buy low target right now. He has started all 4 of Buffalo's games to start the season, and that's what I suspected. There was really no competition on this Buffalo Sabres team. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's there and Eric Comrie's there, but Devon Levi started all the games this season. There's really no reason why he shouldn't. He was arguably the top goalie prospect that we've seen since Jake Ottinger, and he should start around 55 plus games per season. on a team, like I noted with Dylan Cozens, that had the third most goals for last season. And we know Levi's going to get goal support. And another notable thing is that they also had the 7th most shots against last season. So not only will he have goal support, but he'll also get a bunch of volume. And this year, he's only had one game where he's faced over 30 shots, but I suspect this to change as the season progresses. The Sabres are struggling right now. Their team, a lot of their players are buy low targets, and Devon Levi is definitely a guy that I think has a ton of value for the rest of the season. There is no better time to buy low on a team that has just 2 goals per game right now, that averaged 3.6 goals per game last season. Again, their core group is good. They're young. They're getting better. I love Levi here. I love the opportunity that we can see from him long term. Players offered for Levi: Vladimir Tarasenko, Jordan Binnington, Carter Hart. Very difficult to value what other people think on goaltending. So if someone has 2 goalies and Levi is one of the 2, it's going to be hard to trade for them unless you give up a goalie. So that's why I included Binnington, Hart. 2 goalies that started off hot. That Hart is a very good goalie, but I just don't think his long-term value is there with how bad the Philadelphia Flyers are. And Binnington is the most overrated player in the entire NHL. And I would love for you to move him for Devon Levi. To end off this video, Ivan Barbashev of the Vegas Golden Knights, not really a household name, and you may be thinking, why would he be a trade target? But what I thought and what I suspected in the preseason is exactly what we're seeing this year. Now let's go back to last year with Barbashev. He was moved from St. Louis over to Vegas. He just needed a change of scenery, and he ended up being this super dominant power forward. 55 games played, 33 points, 67 shots, and 114 hits, en route to winning the Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. And the reason why I liked him so much this season is because in that playoff run, he was skating with Jack Eichel majority of the time. And a lot of people, including myself, including Chris, are super high on Eichel this season, and this entire Vegas Golden Knights roster that should be, and what we've seen so far, a top 5 team in the NHL. He is skating 75% of his time on ice so far with Jack Eichel, and that is exactly what we wanted to see. He's line 1, power play 2, playing around 16 minutes per night, which is an upgrade from what we saw back in St. Louis. And it was funny to see the depth chart. I think he's one Mark Stone injury away from playing power play 1. It's either him or William Karlsson, but it wouldn't be surprised for me to see Ivan Barbashev match up with his line mates, Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel in the top power play unit. Will Stone get injured? I'm not sure. I'm not going to be trading for him, banking on that. But he has huge upside this season: 60 plus points, 150 plus shots, and 200 plus hits. Very, very high floor on a Golden Knights team that we know is extremely good. I don't think his value is high right now. He has just 1 goal in 3 games while adding 9 hits. So some players to offer for Barbashev: Dawson Mercer, Brian Rust, David Perron, 2 guys that have started off hot, and then Dawson Mercer, who has started off cold, but I think is a perfect trade target for Ivan Barbashev. That will do it for the first trade targets video of the season. If you enjoyed the video and you made it this far, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Expect a bunch of content coming up, guys. I'm super excited. The season's been underway and we're seeing so many fireworks so far this year. Thank you for watching the video, guys, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next one.